Thank you. Okay, so when Robin and I decided to write a piece about race, I was unafraid. We talk about everything, and I knew that talking about a topic so important and personal for me would be the easiest thing in the world. We read some articles, shared poetry about racial inequality, and even spent time talking about race relations in America. This piece should have come naturally, but it did not.
After struggling for a while, we decided to write about two moments in recent history from our respective points of view: the 2008 election of Barack Obama and the 2014 grand jury decision not to indict the policemen who killed Eric Garner and Michael Brown. We're going to read you some excerpts of the essays we ended up with.
I smiled at my television screen, watching brown faces gather at familiar places in New York City, rejoicing. The statue of Adam Clayton Powell Jr. stood strong in the background as people laughed and hugged on television. Obama, Obama. My mother walked into the room. I never would have thought, she said, the same smile I had been wearing spreading across her face. We both watched the television in silence, but a million thoughts raced through my mind. I thought about the days my mother had lived through, when white people chased Latinos and black people back uptown just for being on their side of the neighborhood. I found comfort in the fact that she could see a black man become president of the United States. I didn't know anything about racist job discrimination, housing discrimination, the harsher prison sentences black people face, or cultural appropriation. But I couldn't fully commit myself to happiness that night. I knew that even though Obama was elected, I was still black. People wouldn't stop following me around in stores just because he was president. I was 11 years old.
I never really believed he'd be elected. All that fall, I kept thinking, we're too racist a country to elect a black president. Shortly before Election Day, I downloaded an audiobook of Obama's memoir, Dreams from My Father, and listened to it, thinking how sad it was that we were going to miss our chance to have a president like this one, like the one on the West Wing, thoughtful, honest, introspective, sophisticated, and who was, by the way, a really good writer. But the day after the election, Obama was president. As I passed black parents hurrying with their kids down the hill to PS 125, I wondered how they felt. Were they thinking that finally their children really could grow up to be anything they wanted? Now, 6 years later, it's starting to feel like my original premonition was right. After Eric Garner was choked to death, after Michael Brown was shot, after the grand juries refused to indict, I felt that blacks and whites were further apart than ever, even whites like me who think we get it. The fury of African Americans shouting that Black Lives Matter, that was a fury I could see and respect, but something I could never really experience.
Sometimes when I worry, and I always worry, my face gets all hot and I forget what it feels like to breathe. That day, I lay in my bed and felt my worry creeping under my skin. I was home from school, sick, but it wasn't only my sickness causing my stomach to turn and my head to ache. It was ironic that I felt like I couldn't breathe when I found out that Eric Garner felt the same way before he was choked to death on a sidewalk. But if America is good at one thing, it is irony. Someone once told me, "When I look at you, I see no color." People think the wisest, most efficient way to deal with racism is to be blind to race. Really? All it says is that my blackness does not matter, even though it is an important part of my identity. But I guess I can be ironic too, because I want people to see color, but I also hope the next cop on the street does not.